Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I'm starting a new series where I analyze and review every single arc in One Piece, because I just need to talk about One Piece more. Now, some arcs are better than others, and there's even one bad arc in One Piece, but aside from that, they're all at least pretty good. So I'm not going to do any star ratings or anything. I'm just going to talk about the arc and why I enjoy it. And then probably at the end of the series I'll rank them. But for now, let's go in chronological order and start with the series' first big arc, the Blue Sea arc. Now, I should clarify that arcs in One Piece are split into two basic categories. There's the mega arcs and the mini arcs. But the size difference between them is pretty big, and usually a big arc is comprised of several mini arcs. And also, sometimes the mini arcs aren't that interesting to talk about on their own. So for some of the regular sized arcs, like Skypiea, they'll get their own video. But for others, like Syrup Village or Whiskey Peak, those will just be wrapped into the larger discussion of the arcs that contain them. So when I say the Blue Sea arc, I'm naturally referring to the first 100 chapters of the manga before they cross the reverse mountain and enter the Grand Line. The Blue Sea arc has 4 sub-arcs that vary in size. The first and smallest is the introductory arc, which can kind of be split into 3 subparts as well, where Luffy defeats Alvida, Axen Morgan, and Buggy the Clown. At the same time, the crew goes from just Luffy to Luffy Zoro Nami. Then there's the Syrup Village sub-arc, where they defeat Captain Kuro and add Usopp to the crew, along with the Going Merry. Then the much meatier Baratier arc, where Sanji joins the crew, Nami leaves temporarily, and Commodore Dong Krieg gets his butt handed to him. Also, we're introduced to our first warlord in the form of Hawkeye Mihawk. Then comes by far the largest part of the series, the Arlong Park sub-arc, where Nami rejoins the crew, Luffy defeats the Fishman pirates Arlong, and we get a real solid confirmation that our heroes can make it on the Grand Line because they just fought a bunch of people that came from the Grand Line and they won. I suppose you could also count Logtown as its own sub-arc, but not much happens in Logtown. In the anime, they add in a few sections of story that were cut from the manga so they could make the 100 chapter mark be the entrance to the Grand Line. But even with the stuff that they cut out, it's There's a couple little side stories that are kind of interesting, but there's not really any major battles or new additions to the crew or changes of the status quo. It's more just a send-off and a farewell to the Blue Sea. And now that I've listed the basic structure, let's talk a little bit about the overall impact of this arc. Obviously, it's the first arc in the story and therefore very important in establishing characters and tone and mechanics and stuff. However, I've heard a lot of people say that the Blue Sea arc is hard to get through, especially if you watch the anime, which has filler, and that it really pales in comparison to most of the later arcs. And the latter part I'll agree with. Oda has a tendency to one-up himself over and over again in One Piece, so his starting point looks kind of sad in comparison, but it's still really great storytelling compared to basically every other manga, so However, I think that the Blue Sea arc is really, really good, and I always get sort of a nostalgic feeling when I go back to watch it, even though the first time I saw One Piece was 2017. I've heard some people say that it takes a little while to get hooked on it, and you kind of need to reach like Baratier or Arlong Park before you get really sunk in. However, that wasn't my experience. On episode 1, I was already very intrigued by Luffy as a character because the way he talked about things just was very unique. And by the time they got to showing us Luffy's backstory, which was chapter 1 in the manga, so I don't know why it's episode 4 in the anime, but whatever, 3 or 4, something like that. It's after they pick up Zoro, which is stupid. But I mean, in that sequence, I was absolutely blown away by how fucking awesome Shanks is and how interesting this world could be. Like, to this day, I wonder if there's a side story we never saw of mountain bandits roving along the red line and, you know, earning fame the way that Luffy does. Right? Like, that'd be so cool. We always see this world in terms of the Grand Line and the weird islands and stuff, but like we never really go back to the Red Line where all of the people presumably live. Like in a world that's all islands and only one continent, you would expect most people to live on the one continent, and presumably that would also be a pretty big concentration of resources and stuff, and the main downside of having a devil fruit would kind of disappear, so maybe they would be even more valuable and powerful in that area. But anyway, that's a whole bunch of stuff that never gets addressed in the series, because it's not about that. It's about pirates, okay? We can do the cowboys and the mountain bandit shit later. Pirates. But realistically, even if you're not sold by any of the early Blue Sea stuff, I think Syrup Village really should get you invested in the story. Not only is Usopp like one of the best characters ever written, fight me, but there's a pretty like simple and powerful narrative at play here. You know, the conflict with Kuro and the conflict of people not believing Usopp and the reason why he lies, and the idea of a heroic warrior who lies to protect people and keep them safe is so powerful. There's literally a manga written about it whose name I can't properly pronounce, probably. I think it's something like Itsuwarabito, but I'm not entirely sure that's correct. But it's a great manga. But, you know, finding out that Usopp is related to Shanks's crew and that he started lying about pirates to help his sick mother feel better and make her think that her husband was coming back from the sea. Or when you find out that he continued lying in order to make this sick girl feel better about her life, and also that all of his lies are prophetic and become true things in the story. It's just a really powerful story to me. And there's a lot of great moments where characters prove their worth, and even though Usopp is a liar and a coward and everything, he stands up for what he believes in, and he puts his life on the line to protect the people who are weaker than him, even though he has no chance of beating Captain Kuro, right? Like, none. It's brilliant. And then right after that, we move into the Bratier arc, which, you know, takes a little while to get going. But once it does, and you find out about Sanji's backstory and the horrors of starving at sea and the sacrifices that the older generation will make for the younger generation, and like the insanity of the Grand Line and the battle with Don Krieg and everything, like it's a whole huge, brilliant clusterfuck, basically. There's just so much character depth and so much action and so much beauty in it. And when years later you read the Whole Cake Island arc and you find out Sanji's backstory from before he met Zeph, it's like a whole extra layer of tragedy and respect for this character and their struggles, and it's brilliant. Oda is a master of getting you to fall in love with his characters in a way that I've not really seen anyone else be able to do. At the same time, even this early on in the story, we see a lot of Oda's trademark moves. The crew is constantly getting split up so they don't overpower the enemies too quickly. Right, like at the beginning of Baratier, we have Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Nami, the two mercenary dudes that are Zoro's friends, and now Sanji. And that group going up against Don Krieg, as we see it at the end, would have been completely overpowering. So instead, Nami flees, and then the mercenaries have to go with Usopp and the wounded Zoro from finding Mihawk to the next island. So it's basically just Luffy and Sanji fighting an army. Like, if Zoro hadn't been taken out by Mihawk, no one on Don Krieg's crew would have been a match for him. I mean, maybe Krieg himself, because he was a match for Luffy, but, like, the two side characters that he sends out and who get their butts kicked by Sanji would have just died. And same thing in the next arc, right? Like, if Zoro wasn't so wounded he can barely breathe, he would have taken out every single member of Arlong's crew, including Arlong. As it is, he still defeated almost everyone and Arlong's top swordsman without getting wounded. And again, you see in the Arlong arc, Luffy gets taken out of the fight for 10 minutes because he's a moron, so that everyone else can have their moment in the spotlight, because otherwise he would have just wrecked the whole fucking pavilion. And this is a technique that Oda uses continuously throughout the story, where he'll take the strongest characters and put them on the sideline for whatever reason, so that they can have more interesting fights. Heck, you could even see this in Syrup Village. You know, Zoro's fighting these two really strong people with swords, and he's winning. And by the way, he's winning even though he doesn't have his proper arsenal. And then he gets wounded by Usopp because, you know, Usopp tried to help and Zoro wouldn't let him, so he just took this bullet instead, which of course also leads to him getting wounded by the other enemy, and etc. And then, you know, there's also that whole sequence where he got lost for a while. And of course, when Luffy shows up on the battlefield, he instantly dominates and destroys all of the minions that are working for Kuro, but then he goes crazy and he drops a keel on himself, which is ridiculous. Of course, he also takes out all the minions with him so that he can, you know, sleep until it's time for the final fight. And it's kind of interesting to look back on this arc and see that even back then, Oda considered his characters too powerful to participate in the fights without tons of handicaps. So he had to hamstring them at every turn. And it's just really interesting to see the origins of that writing technique before it got kind of overused. And then, of course, Arlong Park is probably the most emotionally powerful moment that is in the story up until Skypiea, at least. Well, I don't know. No, the end of Alabasta. The send-off from Alabasta is also incredibly emotional. But Nami's backstory and the way it's told to us. So basically, everyone except Luffy hears Nami's backstory. Luffy isn't there. He doesn't want to hear it. He goes up to Nami, offers her help even though she keeps refusing him, and even gives her his hat, which is like the symbol of his journey, right? Like his ambition, everything he lives for is in that hat. And without even thinking about it, he gives it to her as this huge symbolic gesture that, like, I mean, I've already talked about how powerful this moment is, but, like, you know, just basically saying that I can't go on this journey without you. I can't become the Pirate King without you. I can't return this hat without you. And you're more important than any of that anyway. And it's brilliant. I have a whole video talking about the power of those kinds of moments and how amazing Luffy's character is overall. And just seeing all of the lengths that Luffy is willing to go to for this person who realistically he barely knows, and who betrayed him, and who he has no reason to fight for. He doesn't know what her struggles are. He doesn't understand what this village has been going through all this time. He doesn't know about Bellamy at all. He's just doing his best for a friend, because what else can you do? It's so powerful. So with that in mind, I think the Blue Sea arc is actually one of the more emotionally powerful arcs for me, and I always enjoy going back to it. Also, it's one of the arcs that has an actually good theme song. Fucking Mother's Basement recently did a video where he ranks all of the One Piece openings, and I just want to throw my opinion out there. Every opening besides We Are is dog shit. Mostly just because of the comparison to We Are, but still, dog shit. So, you know, the Blue Sea arc definitely has the advantage of having the best anime opening. Even if the animation quality is, oh god, Toei, what were you doing? Like, I know it's Toei and like they don't care and they don't try, but like, yikes. So yeah, that's my opinion on the Blue Sea arc. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about it, and I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Hey, thanks for watching that video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all that stupid YouTube crap. Also, you can find me on Twitch at the Golden Stalfos, obviously. On Wednesdays, me and my girlfriend stream playthroughs of games she's never played before, and that's a lot of fun. And on other days, I will sometimes randomly do a challenge run or something if I'm feeling like it. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter to make extra sure you get video notifications. And I have a Patreon if and only if you have money to burn. But to be fair, if you have money to burn, you should also consider some charities. There are always a few linked in my description, just in case. Oh, and be sure to leave positive comments down below for my girlfriend who volunteered to edit my videos for free because she's awesome. And yeah, thanks for watching.